Comparing to last spring game, I think Anthony overshadowed the entire spring game, if I'm being honest. We didn't really focus on much. I watched Lorenzo, was excited to see how he was going to match up, obviously having a personal relationship with him. But I didn't really focus on too many other things because I was so blinded on, one, the physicality of Anthony. We hadn't seen him, right? So getting all those reps, just seeing his arm talent. Everything else kind of went by the wayside. That was me personally. I'm sure a lot of us did that, right? Just naturally. Spring game. So let's go in before we get into what we're excited to see. We've got the teams pulled up here, the orange and blue roster. So from last year, I remember the offense on the orange looks like to be the number one guys. The defense on the blue seems to be the number one guy. Okay, so that's how this is playing out. Offense on the blue seems to be the second tier. The defense on the orange, just based on what we've heard, what we've been hearing out of practice, and what we should know just from general, that the defense on the second for the orange is tier 2. So let's go over this pretty quickly. Some interesting things that I'm excited, and you guys are in here arguing about the kicker right now, and I'm seeing for specialties, Trey Smack is on the orange team, which if that's the case, that he's trending towards the number one team, because the orange offensive side of the football right now seems to be the top dogs. You've obviously got Graham Mertz, the starting quarterback, followed by Trevor and Montrell as 1 and 2 running backs on the orange team. And then you got Adam on the blue team. So very interesting, because I think you guys were talking about that. Trey Smack was a number one high school kicker coming out of high school. So that was something we've been excited for a long time. And Trey Smack's a phenomenal kicker name. So would love to see him have some success. But looking at it now, what I'm interested to see is offensive line, right? You've got Austin Bomber, Damian George, Najee Harris getting the nod for that looks to be, again, the starting team. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of mix around a few guys on that orange squad, right? But to see him alongside Richie, Bryce, and then it kind of starts going down the list. Cameron Waiters, obviously, he's out for the year currently. And Kingsley, I mean, a stacked O-lineman. Really excited to see. And love seeing Najee, again, a part of this list. That's a huge nod to Najee to be on this list. Somebody who I love, who we've had on the show a time or two. So great young man, and I'm glad to see. This tells me he's having early success, if I had to say so myself. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, it's kind of like a mixed list. I think they did this last year. I can't remember what the concept or
fairly
or
similar.
But looking at like blue and orange, and they kind of had a question in Brandon Olson's Discord there saying, which side are you going to pick? And I'm just like looking at it, I'm like, I'm picking the team with Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson. I mean,
Team Orange. That offense looks stout.
That right there already is like a powerful offense, just having those two guys behind center, you know. And my biggest questions, though, when I look at it is, we said special teams, right? Kicker. I mean, hasn't been that great. Wasn't great last year. Spring game wasn't. Trey Smack's on the roster. I really kind of want to see that. I know they kind of do something special with special teams, and no pun intended, in the spring practices. They may not even be returning anything. I'm not sure how that's going to go. But I mean, you got the new wide receivers coming in. We're hearing Aiden Mazzell in practices, returning kicks and returning punts. I don't know if you're going to see any of that in the spring game, but I'm really curious to see what we get from these young wide receivers. You hear about Andy Jean and how he's doing in practice. You see the speed of Aiden Mazzell. They're talking about him being one of the fastest players on the team. And then you go to running backs. What about Cameron Carroll? What about, God, name on the tip of my tongue right now, but what about the freshman running backs coming in here? I mean, you've got like a lot of, it's more of freshmen that I want to look at more, like your Jakeem Jacksons, your Arliss Boardinghams, been hearing about in spring practice and at the tight end position, where there's still been some kind of injuries there as well. I mean, you got Cameron Carroll blowing up the defensive line, and you hear about the offensive line playing well. So with all the spring notes that we've heard about, and just consistent names like Jakeem Jackson and Arliss Boardingham and Cameron Carroll, like you're hearing those names a lot. Now we finally get to go in front, see it under the lights tomorrow night, and I'm pretty pumped about it, man. Like I kind of also, obviously, I'm not going to say it, but everybody's wanted to know what the quarterbacks are going to do. I mean, that's pretty obvious,
for sure.
Right? Graham Mertz obviously did not have the time he did at Wisconsin. I mean, he did not have a good offensive line, probably did not have good receivers as well. what does he do with new weapons? What does he do with a new offensive line? What is, we're hearing all these things in practice, but we're not seeing it. So you get a good inkling of what's going to happen. But I will say, too, in the past spring games, we've seen Luke Del Rio look good, Felipe Franks look good, and then when it came to on-field play, they weren't as
Sure.
good as average. So
Very
I
much.
kind of, yeah, I kind of just want to put that into perspective too. So really, what you see out of a spring game is us playing each other. Defense is playing offense, offense is playing defense. So really, if you're a glass, like I said, glass half empty person, you're going to think, oh my God, our defense sucks or our offense sucks. If you're glass half full, you're going to say, oh, well, look who made plays. Look at this. Maybe we can build off this. Got to remember, it's only spring too.
For sure. No, and I think that's something to, like, look, things are going to be excited. We're going to love what we're going to see for the most part. I would assume so, but it's just spring. But a couple things I want to address with the teams right now. So Caleb Douglas, Xavier Henderson, Ricky Pearsall seem to be the 1, 2, 3 guys, right? And Alice Bordenham, who we've heard a ton out of camp, seemed to begin to nod as the number 1 tight end. Love seeing that. I do see Desmond Watson, though, again, what appears to be the second defensive team, which is the orange team, on that second team. Could that be a good thing, bad thing? I don't know. We saw the success that he had last year, so if he's losing a spot to the likes of Caleb Bakes, Cam Jackson, Tyreek Sapp, I'm looking at the other side here, right? Could that be a good thing, right? Could that just mean that the elevation of everyone else is that much better? It doesn't drop a little bit, or could he just be mixing in? These things we don't know, right? A lot of questions. I'm just kind of assuming here. Something I do want to point at is Sharif Denson seems to be the number 1 cornerback on the blue side, which, again, is the number 1 defense, but also has a little star by him because he will be playing on both teams. So It seems like it could be going back and forth, but I think that's a huge compliment to him, to seeing where is he going to fit. Where is he at? How is he really going to step up and show out here? So again, love seeing that. Kamari Wilson seeming to be the guy. Shamar James seeming to be the guy, which you just wrote a phenomenal article today about, which I loved reading, by the way. David, kind of being the guy, next guy up to step up. So Shamar, then Mitchell, and then Scooby and Derek. That linebacker class is looking a little bit healthier than it has in the past too. I'm excited to see what those guys can do. Again, a lot of things to be excited about for tomorrow's game. Keontae Goodwin going to be on the blue side, and Max Brown slinging it. We're going to see Graham versus Max. That to me is something huge, right? How does Jack not get the nod to starting the blue team? Now, obviously, he wants to get more reps with the ones. That's playing here, so let's not get it twisted. This isn't necessarily a shot towards Jack, because those two are going to be going back and forth, and it seems that Graham is asserted himself into that third role, possibly. But for Max to get his own time to shine on the blue team, I think it speaks some words. Steve, what's your thoughts on all this, being on the outside looking in?
Really for me, and look, Billy's going to run the ball well. He's got, a two-headed monster at the running back position. We know that's his general philosophy in going into most of his game plans, is to establish the run and then run the play action off that, maybe some spread, things like that. For me, from an outside looking in perspective, by the end of last year, Ricky Pearsall was your number 1 wide receiver by a significant amount. And I know injuries accounted for that and some other things. But look, Ricky Pearsall is a great wide receiver, but if he is head and shoulders significantly better than your number 2 guy, there's a significant gap there. And I think with the talent that you guys brought in with Aiden and his overall speed and what he's able to do, Andy Jean, just getting some of these guys back that at the end of the year were a little bit dinged up and weren't able to really contribute in those last couple of games. I'm interested to see what the wide receiver core can do when they're back to healthy, and they have a different level of speed that I don't believe they had last year. I know Xavier Henderson's quick. I don't know if he has the long speed of an Aiden if he gets the ball in space and things like that. So I think for what Billy's going to try to do in the running game, having the talent and the speed to open things up over the top after you get the defense, playing on their balls of their feet and trying to stop the run, that's going to take the top off the safety, or at least keep the safety from being able to come down to the box. The wide receivers, I think, are going to have a bigger impact on what he's able to do, Billy, that is, with the running game. Can they block? They might be fast as hell. Can they block as well? Are they able to come down and put a shoulder pad on a linebacker to give the running back the edge? I think it's going to the wide receivers are going to play an integral part in this, and it may not always be catching the ball. It could be just overall top speed to get the safeties back off of you to keep some space for the running backs, and it could be the ability to block as well to give that running game what Billy wants to do on the edge. So I think that's going to be a big part of it to finally see what you look like full speed.
Yeah, no, I think the wide receiver core is going to be very exciting. Right now, again, Caleb Douglas, Xavier, Ricky seem to be on that one squad. And then we got Marcus Burke, Bowman, Andy Jean, and Mizell on that second tier with old Maxie Brown slinging it to him, which we did see that touchdown pass on Twitter from Maximus Prime to Aiden Mizell, which the big head of Aiden will be in the swamp come Saturday night. Maybe we can get him a little auto. Can we give him the sign in the head? And quick shout out to Don. Says, I always look forward to Wednesday nights. Love hearing that. Really appreciate that. Means a lot that you guys hang out with us again on every Wednesday night. Over 200 in the chat, which is phenomenal in April for spring game. Love the energy that we're at right now. So let's show some love. Let's see if we get to over to 75 likes. That'd be awesome. I appreciate you guys. For me, what I'm most excited for is obviously to see the quarterback room. That one's going to be a big one that I think we're all highly anticipated of. The next biggest thing for me, especially with all the changes and entering the portal, not entering the portal, and now an offensive lineman going into the portal in a position that I've been heavy on how we should be better at recruiting, and obviously with us going towards the direction of a heavier run game, is the offensive line. How are we going to bounce back after losing 2 studs to the draft, right? One of them gets a brick, some heavy power that will be leaving on top of the running back room, because how are they going to adjust? Are they going to look as good as they did last year? Or better? If they look better, is that running back room that good? Or is Rob Sell doing a great job of transitioning from, hey, next guy up, let's keep moving? All those things I'm going to be really interested in, because I think it's also going to lead to the success of whatever quarterback is there and for the future. And I think that's going to speak volumes too for recruiting, which I feel like we have been dropping the ball recently. It seemed linebacker was the weak point for last year, but now it seems the linebacker void has been filled. Offensive tackle seems to me has been the weakest part of recruiting thus far. I feel like we're not landing the big names, not taking a shot at the guys we have thus far. I love the guys who we have, but I know where Florida's fan base is, where their headspace is at. They're not happy with just a 3 or 4 star. They want the big dog, and I would love a big dog too. So we've got to land. We got to land a big one. We got to get a big one in. I think how we look, obviously, the spring game isn't going to land everybody, but it'll be exciting to see, for me to see how we're able to transition for that. So, a lot to look forward to tomorrow. I think comparing to last spring game, I think Anthony overshadowed the entire spring game, if I'm being honest. We didn't really focus on much. I watched Lorenzo, was excited to see how he was going to match up, obviously having a personal relationship with him. But I didn't really focus on too many other things because I was so blinded on, one, the physicality of Anthony. We hadn't seen him, right? So getting all those reps, just seeing his arm talent. Everything else kind of went by the wayside. That was me personally. I'm sure a lot of us did that, right? Just naturally. So this year, I think we're all going to be looking at a lot of different things because we've had a lot of different changes, and there isn't one just massive superstar, which is another big point, another big emphasis on how that's going to impact this coming season. There isn't that big superstar that Billy has to work with anymore. He gets to coach the team now, not Anthony. What's going on with Anthony? How's Anthony? How's AR? What's AR? How's AR feeling? There isn't that guy to take over. Now, I'm sure there's leadership in the locker room, which Anthony provided, but I think this is where Billy wanted to be all along of, we are a team, right? The name on the front of your jersey is more important than the name on your back. With Anthony there, I don't think we were able to get that. And again, this isn't a shot. It's just simply the fact of the matter of how last year played out. So a lot of exciting things for this orange and blue game that, we were having to overcome last year. And last year, too, was the very first year that it was on Thursday night. Another big hurdle that everyone had to adjust to. Now it's the norm. We're okay with it now. We're not questioning it anymore, especially with the talent that will be there this Thursday, which we'll get into shortly.